Victor, you're very welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much, Sean.
How are you getting on? Absolute pleasure to have you.
No, I'm getting on well now, same as everybody else, just keeping quiet, starting to get back out into the world again a little bit.
Yeah, there was a big ease in there the other day, now wasn't there? There was a big lift.
Yeah, so we were closed in where I work at the moment. We were closed since the 16th of March, so it's been sort of a bit strange. Good in some sort of ways, I enjoyed the break, but in other sort of ways you'd miss clients, and then just sort of strange normality of the thing, I suppose.
I know. It's very unprecedented. And so kind of no one is prepared for it. There's so many places which, you kind of have to adapt, and everybody's unprepared as to how to, there's new means of communication, new forms of communication, and experimenting with different things.
And you just have to sort of try and learn them. But I suppose in a funny sort of way, I've been in isolation before and gone through different things like that. So in my own head, it wasn't that hard sort of thing. It was just a matter of just falling back into old routines, really. It's like nearly going back 10 years in life in some sort of ways.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Well, when I started this, Victor, getting up and running, you were one of the first people on my list, and I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to chat with me, and I'm looking forward to our chat now. And
yeah, it should be good. Like I said to you when you asked me, I've never really done anything like this before. I've done some radio interviews and that, but like there have been, I think it's a good few years ago. So yeah, it's nice to do something like this, and sure, look, it's innovative of you to think of it, and I hope it goes well for you.
Oh, well, it's different for me too, and as you know, you're taking it on. You're always kind of nervous starting out, but after you get a couple of them done, but it's just I just like the way they have the way the conversations go, and it's the genuinity of it, and just like having the chat.
Exactly, yeah.
Basically having the chat is just. But no, and I can't stress enough how it means an awful lot to have you on, and I really do appreciate it. I know you're hectic at the minute too.
Well, we're getting back that way now, all right. So yeah, we're as I said, we're just opening back up, so we do expect to be pretty busy.
Yeah.
So we do. So
yeah, I can imagine. Well, look, it's vitally important too. It's essential.
But, yeah, well, it's one of these sort of things. It's a passion of mine, I suppose, and like we'll get into that later on. But
yeah, absolutely.
It's one of these sort of things that we need to get rid of the stigma around this whole mental health thing and just start sort of talking, and even this sort of talking about football. This is all just some people need. It's just an outlet, or to listen to this, or whatever it is like that. People just need to sort of communicate. Communication is the biggest thing, and we can do that a little bit better, but then all our mental health will be a lot better.
Absolutely, Victor. I couldn't agree anymore with you. So I'm going to take you way back at the start. I suppose we would have shared days ourselves, and with the Killoe juniors, we would have had many outings.
We had a few, all right.
They were great days. They still stick with me, these memories back, and we could be anywhere. We could be in league, and we could be all over. But
yeah.
I think the characters we played with stay with you more, nearly, don't they?
Well, it was, and I suppose with you didn't spend too long with us juniors.
No.
A couple of games when you were a young lad, so you were before you sort of made the jump up. But I suppose I was more a junior footballer really than that. And I loved it. I loved playing junior because I didn't at the time have the time to commit to be senior, because I suppose back then it was only really getting serious back then when I was sort of in my early to mid 20s. The trainings were getting very serious and all about the diets and all of that sort of thing, the drink bans and all. That was all only sort of coming in really at that stage and getting very serious. Whereas I just didn't have the time. I was working, I was playing rugby, I was different that. So the junior just suited me. Train once a week, go out and have one game a weekend or whatever like that. Maybe Division 3 or Division 6. But it was more for the social aspect of it. I loved the football, yeah, but social aspect was great, which I think is sort of gone now out junior football a little bit.
Yeah, it is. It's a pity, because that's one thing that always struck me about, because I was even thinking of, say, my father's generation too, when they got to a stage where, they were heading into playing a bit of junior football, that the seriousness, it was serious to an extent, but as you said, the social aspect of it was so important.
Oh, and, like you'd go back to the pub after a game, and both teams would go back and you might have one. And I suppose things change. the drink driving and stuff like that had a big effect on it too. Because like if you're playing in Dromard, you might go to Dillon's, or if you're playing in Drumlish, you might have a pint in Drumlish and then go back to your local pub. But you can't do that anymore with the drink driving. So that sort of had one effect on it. And then people were busier. People were working in Dublin. Things started. The Celtic Tiger was around at the time. People couldn't come home from Dublin. So the whole sort of social aspect of it, like as you say, when your father was playing there, I think I won 4 junior championships with him, or league titles with him at that time. Like, so it was all great crack. So it was, and everybody, you'd have most of the team back in, whereas now you might have 5 or 6, if that.
Yeah, it's gone it's gone nearly too competitive now. Not that it wasn't competitive.
It's gone professional, really.
Yeah.
So it is.
Yeah, it is.
Like, as you know, like I live right here beside the football pitch.
You see it firsthand.
Like I'd see lads there, like your own cousin there, Joe, and young Simon Kieran, and the lads, they're there every day.
Yeah.
Like the car is there every day. They're in the gym, or they're doing a run, or they're doing something. Like, so, like it takes up an awful amount of time to be a club county player or a club senior player.
Yeah.
Never mind to be on the county panel or anything like that. It's a huge commitment, and you nearly have to put your life on hold, I think, nearly these days, if you want to sort of be where you want to be, I suppose, in your early to mid 20s. Like at that stage, then I suppose you start sort of getting a little bit slower, coming up to the 30s, and you have more time, and I suppose you think about marriage and things like that. But in that sort of early to mid 20s, and it's getting earlier and earlier, and I feel there's a lot of pressure on young lads now to just give up their lives basically from 16 to 25 and just give it all to football.
Yeah.
Which I think is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind lads playing football, but they have to enjoy it. I think young lads aren't enjoying football like the youth. It's like they're in the Premiership or they're playing county football.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely
agree. I don't know, do you agree with me on that?
Oh, I do. I think like
you've gone through it yourself. Like, you know what it is to play with the county and commit to that sort of stuff. Like, so it's a lot of commitment.
Yeah, you have to get a balance. Like, and even when I go back to what we were talking about with the junior there, even I seen it the last couple of years. I respect anyone who plays any level of football, but I think, like, I'd be thinking of a fella there now who might be maybe finish his senior career, or maybe might be maybe not necessarily might play senior, but might want to play a bit of junior. Basically just for the love of the game and for the social aspect of it.
Exactly.
Because even for junior level now, the training is so there's a commitment involved. It's very off-putting, and it's not accommodating to lads either who just want to play for the love of the game.
Yeah, like if you miss a training session, you're dropped off the team and this sort of thing. Like we are lucky with Killoe Club, I think, though, as well, the amount of players that we have.
Yeah.
Like there's only 2 or 3 clubs that can put out a senior, intermediate and junior team and have maybe 25 junior players out.
Yeah.
Like the likes of Slashers there, maybe Dromard and 1 or 2 like that. Like they're the only clubs really that can put out them numbers. So we're sort of lucky that we can sort of do that. But like if you had a smaller club, like you'd be scrambling for players looking to play.
Yeah.
The other thing I suppose as well then is I don't think they give minors and under 21s enough time at junior, because putting them straight onto a senior team from minor, like you've done it yourself, and I know lots that have done it. Like, it's a huge step.
Yeah.
Like you going in there, like, and maybe coming up against some of these lads from Dromard or Mullinlock and some of the McGivney lads or something like that.
Mm.
If you're only 17, 18 years of age, like, they're going to go through you.
Yeah.
Like, so if you start playing a little bit of junior, a little bit of intermediate for a year, and just get used to the raps and used to, because I suppose when I was playing, it was the older lads, so they were that little bit slower, and like to give you, they wouldn't let you buy them. Oh, that sort of way. But it hardened up. It hardened me up a lot. So it did. Like, and it maybe I suppose a little bit more streetwise, which I think some of the Killoe players need. Is we're great skill, we're great sort of fitness, but I think just a little bit streetwise, like Mullinlock and Dromard lads, they're a bit cleverer than us in that sort of a way.
Yeah, and it's getting the right. You're spot on there. It's getting the right balance. Like, as you were saying, that experience is so important. Like, as in the next stepping stone. But then the other thing is, you don't want to be holding lads back either. You know, when you want to be pushing them, because especially as you said in Killoe, our probably biggest problem is accommodating the numbers we have. Like, that
is one of the biggest problems. Yeah, because I know 2 or 3 lads that have sort of like just to be maybe trained, like even like my own brother there, Gary.
Yeah, of
He
course.
sort of like training, but like just with the numbers and the good team that was at the moment, lads like that get pissed off and then give up.
Yeah.
No, but like he went off to Australia, he's back and that, and he probably play a bit of junior this year. But like he played over there, and he was telling me that he loved the football over there, so there was no pressure, I suppose, on it, or expectations of you.
It's a brilliant experience from what I hear, playing away.
Oh yeah, like it is. Like, and his girlfriend there, Ashleen O'Hara there, like from Drumlish, she was playing and she won a couple of tournaments over there. But like she plays for Drumlish or St Helens here. Like, so it was a good experience for him to get out and play a bit of ball in good weather, I suppose, as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hear nothing but great things. Like when people who go away and it's a vital life experience as well.
I think so. Like I travelled a little bit myself when I was in my early 20s. Like, and I was just so happy that I did it. Like, because it's great to see the world. It gives you a huge, I suppose, outlook on different things and a different aspect of the way you look at life, especially when you see, I suppose, where other people live and what they have to do, and you come back and you're giving out about third world problems that your phone isn't charged or something like that. So like you sort of see the difference in sort of life. So I'd recommend anybody to travel, even at any age, sort of, like, because you'll never regret it. And it was one of the things I was happy to do that I had done before I had the accident, because I wouldn't get the chance to do it now. So it was one of those things that just worked out for me, I suppose.
Of course. And I suppose when we draw you back, and when you were playing football underage, what led you into the rugby route? Was it a group of friends you were involved with?
Yeah,
or
I
was it
suppose,
someone in
like
particular?
my first love, I suppose, when I was a young fella at national school was really more so soccer.
Okay.
I was good friends with James Walsh, Kevin Mulligan, who's actually the principal in the school at the moment,
Yeah.
and sort of Seamus Clark, a few of them lads. And we used to, James's father, Kevin, used to train us. So like that was sort of nearly the first sort of trainer footballer that I nearly got into. And then I think nearly the most influential man on football in Killoe started me out playing, and that's Colm Hart.
Yeah.
He came into the school when I was in 5th class, so I was on his first sort of team, and I was goalkeeper on that team. And then he sort of started training. We got to the county final the following year when I was in 6th class. It was the first time that I think in 15 years that Killoe had reached the county final in Division 1. Now we got well bet. Michael's team bet us that year, and a lot of them went on to win the senior championship actually. But it was him that got me actually into the GAA, and then went in and played a little bit in Mel's and that sort of thing. But yeah, I got him with a group of friends. Niall Walsh was one of them. He was actually, we're in the same class in Mel's, and actually we're born on the same day, which was a bit odd too. So it was. But his father was the principal in Mel's, Peter Walsh. Principal in St Michael's School. So I ended up playing under 14 at the start, and that was basically where we started out. Didn't have a clue. I saw a bit maybe on the television. I'd watched a little bit of the 91 Rugby World Cup, and sort of was interested in Sean Fitzpatrick, the New Zealand hooker. I suppose he'd be one of my inspirations, him and Keith Wood, for the position that I used to play in hooker. So they were the sort of, that's how I sort of got into it, just by luck.
And who was coaching you at that age then?
Yeah, Peter Walsh was coaching me at that age.
Okay.
And Anton Glynn.
Oh, right.
He came into it then. So Anton's still involved in their size and that. So
and then like it's great, like from my own short experience in there, when you go in there, it's a great you meet a great group. It's a great place to be around, isn't it? Like it's you meet great friends.
Like a little family in there, so it is really.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody else, and you're always very, like, a couple of people when I said I was going into rugby was, oh, you're all very laddie-da now, and you must be one of the posh lads, and that sport is only for the upper clientele. And once you go into the club, it's not that way at all. Like it's all sort of based around the player and around a bit of crack. Again, around the social aspect was a big sort of part of it as well. Like rugby, it's not an easy sport. Like you have to be fairly committed to it as well. But at the same time, it's I never felt the pressure in there to be as committed as I did with football. For whatever reason, I'm not 100% sure. Like,
you could probably accept it because
if you turned up, they'd be happy that you're there. Whereas when you turned up for the football, it was like you were expected to be there.
Yeah, I get
think
that
that's
completely.
sort
Yeah.
of the difference.
Yeah, yeah, and then like unknowns to yourself, you were playing with a smile on your face. You were playing with a sense of freedom.
Well,
You were
you
kind
see,
of
one
you're
of the
at your
things I
best.
suppose one of the things I got out of the rugby, like I suppose it really, one of my uncles or two of my uncles died, and first cousin in a crash outside Bannalee back in '95, October
Yeah.
'95. I was very close to one of them, John Jones, and just a lot of anger issues or sort of confusion, a bit angry. Didn't know why. He was only a man in his late 30s. He'd be actually around the same age as myself now, so he would when he died. So sort of anger and confusion around that. And I just found the rugby great. You went in and you went onto the pitch and you just ran at anybody as hard as you could, sort of stamped on them, kicked them, bet them, whatever you had to do to get the ball or for them to stop or for you to stop them from getting the ball, you could do. And you walked off the pitch then and you gave your man a hug and you shook his hand and you had a drink with him after or whatever like that. Not in the early days, of course, but I suppose like after the game, it was gone. You just left that anger. I found I could leave the anger on the field and I suppose all that sort of pent up aggression and just go, and the next few days then it'd be grand.
Yeah.
Sort of, and then until you needed it again. But that was one of the reasons I suppose I loved it. It was everything was left on the pitch. Whereas I suppose going back to the Gaelic, I still hold grudges against some lads that I played Gaelic with, that going back like maybe 15, 20 years. And I said, just I'd love to get another rap at that lad. Whereas I never had that in the rugby. I always just, if I wanted to give a lad a rap, I gave him a rap in the rugby. And that was that.
Yeah, I know. I know. I get that. Yeah, it's so true. It is so true,
Yeah.
and there's great camaraderie. Yeah, it's a different code completely, isn't it?
Now, don't get me wrong. Like I suppose like the Gaelic did give you that, and like, and I had several run-ins on the field and got
Yeah.
away with some things with refs that I probably shouldn't have got away with. But you do form huge bonds on that as well. Like there's lads that friends that I would have played with, and once they stopped playing, I stopped sort of going to games and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But those lads that just give you that, I suppose, bit of a lift or bit of a boost. I suppose my own football career was very influenced by your own father, actually. So he would, for whatever reason, he took a liking to me, and he sort of made me captain for a couple of years in a row. Whereas lads were shouting at him, "Oh, you be captain, Terry," or whatever. And he said, "No, leave it to him. Let one of the young lads take it over." And that was one of the things I always, I suppose, respected your father for. He let us young lads get along with it, I suppose. And man used to rugby train like I went in and out with him. And he used to always remember Pork would be in with him as well, and he'd have the tackle bags lined up. And we'd be looking at him, so just that young lad's a bit of a lunatic. So he turned out to be a fierce, quiet fella, but he got hard, big and strong though at the same time.
You're working away on them at home.
Yeah, it must be that
would have
home.
been.
Yeah, we'd be at
Okay.
under 20s training or that with your father. He'd have the tackle bags lined up along the line, and he'd be just running at them. Right? Like he was only 11 or 12, I'd say, at the time, like younger maybe. So he was, but yeah, he was. And then I don't think he ever played rugby.
Yeah, played a short bit underage. Yeah,
short bit of underage,
yeah,
and
but
you
sure,
never
like
played
that.
yourself or whatever.
So I played I played till I was about 12. I think Porry might play at the same age, but like that, the football just takes over. You know,
Yeah, that's it. Like
that point, yeah.
You nearly have to choose one or the other if you're going to be serious. I think at one or the other.
Yeah, from a very
young age. It wasn't until the latter years that I sort of really got to see. Like I gave it a couple of years break when I was away in college and different things like that. Rugby, you come home for an odd game, but at the same time you weren't fully committed, so you weren't. And it wasn't until really the last 2 or 3 years that I had got fully committed. Like I was captain of the seconds for the 3 years before I had my accident, and I was vice captain up the year I had my accident. So it probably would have been going on maybe to be captain the following year. So I was only really starting to get really serious about the rugby and less serious about the football at that sort of stage. Because I was captain of the junior for 3 years as well. So like I was captain of the seconds and I was captain of the junior team and Division 16 in Killoe at the same time. So it was a lot of sort of
not realising
pressure at different times.
For sure, like, you know, you're leading different groups and different people as well.
Yeah, and I sort of let at it as well, the sort of thing. Frankie was the manager, Frankie Toher, when we were doing the juniors. So he used to let me take training and the whole lot. So like it was sort of, and then you go in and some Sundays you might have a game, junior game at 12:30, and then you could go in and play a rugby game at 3:00. Like, so it was hard on the body at certain times of the years. And then the other thing was then from September, I suppose, until March, I'd be trying to sort of keep the weight up a little bit. So I always ranged between, I suppose, 12 and 14, 15 stone. So during the winter time, I'd be trying to get up to the 15 stone because you needed to wait for the scrums and that sort of thing in rugby. And then I'd be trying to drop down to as much as possible during the summer because you'd be playing cornerback, you'd want that little bit of speed and that sort of thing. So it was always constantly a battle with the weight as well.
Yeah,
so
that was not easy.
No, and then the later, the more you got into it and the more you drank it, the bigger the battle was.
Yeah, I know.
So it's just hard. And there was no protein shakes or any stuff like that back then. There was no mention of that. Creatine was the only thing that was sort of back out then, and I wasn't into that sort of stuff. So
there was a lot of grey area around that.
There was it was just coming into the rugby around that time, all this creatine and lads were going to the gym and different things like that to start lifting weights. But it was mostly just training that we were doing, like just press ups and stuff like that. I think the gym came in 1 or 2 years after I finished playing.
Yeah.
So it's just up to yourself to do your own.
I love that you had that experience of being given the responsibility and the reins. I love that kind of happened at that time where young lads were trusted with these.
Yeah, and I think more of that should sort of happen as well. But I suppose it depends on the character you have in your team.
Yeah.
Like if I look at the junior teams now, like there's no leaders. Whereas if I look at the junior teams where I was playing, you could name about 3 or 4 just off the top of your head. So you could, like that was playing sort of junior back then that you could count on. I was going to play fairly well every day. Like I suppose I didn't play much with him. I played only a couple of games with him, but I suppose my idol when I was growing up playing football was John Tope. I always sort of, when I used to go and watch him play, I always just liked the way that he never moved too much, but he always got the ball.
He did, yeah. Great reader.
So I used to always wonder, like, how can he not be running like all the rest of them? The ball always comes to him. So I suppose I watched him a lot to see how he read the game, but watching a player and having the reading is completely different thing.
Oh, stop. Were you trying it yourself then, were you? Were you trying it yourself?
Yeah, a little bit hard on myself. I was thinking, I'd have to move a little bit, but then I got moved out full back and put in corner, so it sort of didn't work out too much then. But yeah, it was more like because I never had much pace. I was never blessed with pace, so I wasn't so. I thought I'd use my mind more so than I'd use the body as much as I could in football, and it worked out sort of a lot of times. But yeah, the little corner forward, then he was the trouble. So,
and there was
I didn't mind the big lads. Then I'd be well able for the big lads. The small lads I couldn't.
There were some great times. God, I remember some hard.
Oh yeah, mighty bit of crack. So yeah, and look, as I said before, only for Cullen Hart, I think coming into our parish, I don't know where Killoe football really would be. Because it was him that started taking it serious at school. Like we never had really a master or anyone that did the football before that back in St. Teresa's.
No, so, he really took control of it.
Yeah, he took control of it and sort of got it organised and put his army influence, I suppose, over it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That army influence has been over me so many times. Between him, your father was sort of in the army, Steve Coy Senior. A lot of these boys, like I used to have a lot of blowouts with Steve at training. I'd have my opinion and Steve would have his opinion. But at the same time, as I said, like we'd go off the pitch and he'd give me a lift home. So it was sort of, I would have a chat out in the car on the way home. But it was, I think a bit of army discipline can go a good bit of the way too. So
yeah, big personalities and had their methods and it worked.
Yeah, and another player there that I used to love to watch for playing for Killoe, and not really a Killoe man, but I suppose when I was in goals myself was Pat Masterson.
Oh yeah, Pat.
Flair.
Yeah.
Flair, that's where I used to get me. I used to take an odd notion and a cornerback and maybe run half the field with the ball or something like that, and that's where I got that from. I was watching Pat coming out goals and just taking a notion and just after I go up to the halfway and see how it goes.
He used to get away with the dodgy solo as well. He used to bring the foot up to the ball. He used to bring the foot right up and touch off the ball. I don't know whether it was legal or not at the time, but
it was. That was a lot of crack about it. It was sort of just a bit of freedom.
And you had good experience with the rugby though as well. You you had the Midlands rugby team. You were on that 16 and 18 level, weren't you?
Yeah, when I was playing under 16, I made the Midlands team twice in a row, under 16 myself, Colin Glynn and Darren Maguire, actually. I was sort of the odd one out there. Darrow went on to play for Ireland under 18s, and Colin went on to play for Leinster under 18s and under 20s, and played for Bucks and stuff like that. Whereas I suppose maybe I just didn't take it as serious after sort of the under 16s and 18s and stuff like that as they did.
But do you think at that time though, those lads were, rugby was probably their
that was their number one sport.
Yeah, whereas you probably had football pulling out you as well. So
I had football and I had work. Them boys sort of were in college.
Yeah.
So like I was working 5, 6, 7 days a week and sometimes as well, and then trying to get me apprenticeship done and stuff like that. So they were just in college, so they had a lot more time to dedicate to it. But just even going to the trials, like making the Midlands teams for 2 years and going down to Tullamore to train and maybe over to Edenderry to train and just playing, then going up and playing against the Dublin Mets, like the size of them compared to the size of some of us, like they were just men compared to boys a lot of the time. So like that was at the Leinster under 18 and under 16 trials that I was at. And yeah, like I got on well, but I was just too small for my position at the time. So I wasn't even sure of my position because I used to play every position in the front row. So at that time, I think I was playing tight head, and I was just too small and too light for. Whereas if I was playing hooker, I probably would have had a better opportunity to get in. But look, that's hindsight too, so it is.
But all great experiences that I suppose were
building
your interest in it even more.
It gives you a bit of. I was never a hugely confident person when I was younger. I always questioned myself and sort of, are you good enough? And are people just giving you this chance because they feel sorry for you? And you'd always have doubts going through your head. Like I'm sure you had yourself at some stages in your career. Like you think, like, why am I doing this? Or am I bothered? Or like, are they laying me on? Or are they laughing at me behind me back? Or this sort of thing. So you'd always have them sort of doubts. So it was good to, I suppose, nearly prove it to yourself that you are good enough by making under 18 trials, because you can't sort of say, well, just like they're calling me up to Leinster, they're not calling me up just for the crack. They must see something.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
that was, I suppose, a big boost to confidence that it sort of, it gave you that, and I bet you should maybe look after yourself physically a little bit better as well, and to try and to improve, because that's, I suppose, one thing that I always had was motivation. No matter what I put my body or mind to, I always wanted to do the best that I could do at it. And then if I was happy, because you can never have any regrets really after that. Then.
No.
Because if you give it your all and put everything that you had into it, well then that's good. That if you finish up or you don't succeed, well, at least you can say, well, I can try my best, and that was that.
Yeah, in any walk of life, if you can answer that question at the end.
Yeah.
Did you give it your best? And if you can say yes, then
your best. That was it. Like, and even with the painting and stuff like that, when I was doing that, like, I love that. Like, and as I say, I'm a lucky man. I've never worked a day in my life really, because when I was painting, I loved the painting. I loved doing what I was doing, and now that I'm at the counselling, I love that as well. So, like, it's when you get a job that you love or that you enjoy, and you get something out of. Like, I suppose gratitude was the thing. Like, when I go into a house and paint it, you go in and the walls might be dirty or you might have to strip that. When you were leaving the house, you could see what you were after doing. You're after brightening up that room. You're after changing the way it looked. And it's the same with the counselling. Like, not always, but 8 out of 10 times the person that comes into you, you have the chat and you might see them for whatever 6 or 10 sessions. But you can see the change in that person as from what person they came in with their head maybe hanging on able to make eye contact with you, whereas they're walking out with their heads held high and shoulders back after maybe 2 or 3 months of coming to see you. So I get huge job gratification. So
yeah, that's fantastic. A great. I'm sure it's a great sense of. It's a great not sense of achievement, but it's, as you said, it's very rewarding, and it's great to be able to say that in the profession you're in,
like
you enjoy and love.
Like the rugby, I suppose, like going back to that a little bit as well, and the commitment. Like, it was great, and I got a lot out during it, but every Sunday in your life was gone, and you'll know this playing county ball as well. Like,
you travel a lot too, I'm sure.
Down to Rossgrey, you could be gone down to Wicklow, You could be anywhere in Leinster on the Sunday, and could be gone like at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. If you're with the seconds, you'll be playing at 12:30, and you might be subbing for the first then. So that game would be at 3. That wouldn't be over till nearly 5. Then you go into the clubhouse, get something to eat, and it's usually 9 or 10 o'clock at night before you're home.
Yeah, so, such a long day.
You're at that for the whole winter then, so you are. Like you're trying to have your social life is sort of gone because you can't go out Saturday night because if you got a rapid, everything could come up on the Sunday. So
exactly, yeah.
So like you don't want to be on the bus for 3 hours as well with a hangover, so you don't.
Oh God,
now it happened an odd time. I'm not going to say that. You tried to avoid it as much as you could. So like it did sort of have a big impact on your sort of social life and stuff like that as well. Because like I was working 8 till maybe 8, 9 o'clock a lot of the days because I'd work from 8 to 4:30 with my boss John Joe Brennan there from Newtown, and then I'd go home and do Nixers from 5 o'clock till maybe 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and so like it was. But I suppose that was my spending money. I suppose me Nixers. That was the money that brought me on holidays or went away for weekends or whatever like that. So I could save the rest of the money. So, but it was it was hard going. Like, and as I said, like I just gave everything as much as I could. Like sometimes you'd come to a stop that you couldn't give any more, and you'd needed just to take a break. But they were few and far between because you were just young and you had the energy to do it.
Yeah. And like you said there, you were loving it at the time, and you were heading off.
And if you're loving something, you don't feel that you're really working too hard at it, so you're not.
True, and like as you were saying, you were always got that sense of you felt with the rugby the appreciation of being there at these matches and committing to it. The people involved, the people over you were very appreciative. Because
that's it. And then like it was nearly like war stories. Then after the games, like a couple of months or a year or two later, you'll remember that lad or remember I did this, and like you're going in there and you're talking to, like when I was going in and playing under 16, like you're looking at these monsters of men like Noah Lee and Kieran Smith and all of these like big lads, 6'5", 6'6", and 18, 19 stone, and you're thinking, Lord Jesus, like will I ever be big enough to run into one of them sort of thing? Like, and then you go into senior training and Kieran Smith comes running at you 40 miles an hour and nearly goes across you, but you stay there. And then after the training, the boys come in and said, fair play to you. And you didn't move out of the way. And that's it, you're in with them then, sort of thing. Like, and the likes of Barry O'Connor and all it, like there was big men playing the game at the time. So there was Mick Connell and God rest him, poor old Bimbo Belton and that sort of thing. Like, so it was to get in with them and Johnny Killoe, and it was sort of, it was like getting into this little secret group. So it was sort of, you knew that you had your back.
Did that help yourself?
That was the major thing about it. If someone annoyed you and you hit them, you knew you had the 14 other lads coming behind you. Whereas a lot of time when I hit someone in Gaelic, I look around and I was on my own a lot of times. So and it depends on the team you're playing on now. I remember Gar Rapp playing against Royd in one of the finals now, and I think Jimmy. I think the three boys came in, Jimmy, Tommy, and Terry, came in and gave me a hand. So did it. And so
you're in safe hands.
That was actually against Jason Tunney, who played for Killoe a couple of years later. But I was only 16 at the time, so I was so. They told Jason to leave the young lad alone.
As politely as possible, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was a good hard game. That game went to 3 replays, so 4 a team won.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good out of competition now, so it was.
And when you mentioned
we didn't win it until 2 or 3 years ago, I don't think. Again.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I think that cup is actually in this house. I think Gary was on the team. I don't know. I think it's there's a cup here, and I don't know whose it is.
Hold on to it, Anya.
I will. Yeah, no problem.
But just when you were saying there about coming through that Longford rugby training session, and you said you kind of felt like you were part of the secret group. Did that going back to what you earlier said about that self-belief, that self-doubt, because I can totally relate to that, what you were saying earlier, you said it in a nutshell. Did that help with that then? Did you get
it did. It gave me a
confidence?
huge, it gave me a huge boost that, as I said, like it's not just that they're patting you on the back, just sort of like not sort of what was I say, patronisingly.
Yeah.
But you were actually I felt I was deserving of it then. That I was actually doing something. They weren't just saying, "Oh, he's a good lad, he's trying," sort of thing. It was more so, yeah, this lad fits in with us and he's one of us, sort of thing. And no matter what comes rolling at him, he'll stand in its way. So he'll be part of the team, and that gave me a huge boost. And like them lads I'm still friends with all of them boys. Like, and they still give me a ring or whenever I meet them. Like, and that's what I suppose, as I say, like, there's difference between friends and acquaintances.
Yeah.
Like, friends, you'll never have too many of them in your life. You'll always have the one or two friends that you bring from national school, or that are your next door neighbours, or that sort of thing, that you'll always be friends with them, no matter whether they're living the far side of the world. Once you pick up that phone, you just pick up conversations as if you never sort of left each other, so you do. And then there'll be friends that you make throughout life that you know you can depend on, like the lads that I played rugby and some of the lads I played football with. And then you have your acquaintances, I suppose, lads that sort of would be on, you would have played football with them, but never got close to them. But like, they would have been there, you would have spent years being on a team with them. But just, not that you didn't click, but you just never got close, I suppose. Whereas that group that I joined, and like, they were there for me and supporting me throughout the accident and stuff like that, it was all sort of, it sort of gave me a huge sort of confidence boost. And like, just here, actually just sitting in the computer room here at home and just looking out the corner of my eye, I caught that, and I forgot to say it, I won minor player of the year with Killoe in 1998.
Fantastic.
And so, like, it was one of them sort of things that I didn't think I deserved to win at the time, because I thought there was a lot better players on the team, and that I was sort of just like an add-on, that you picked the first 10 and then you added me sort of on just because there was no other cornerbacks. But when I think back on it, like, I had a great year that year. Like, I wasn't captain, but I was vice captain. Peter Maguire Boots was the captain at that year, so he was. Like, and we had a decent enough minor team, like, so we just didn't win it. We met a strong Edgestown team. But even that trophy, like the minor player of the year, it's a great achievement now when I look on it. But back then, it didn't mean a huge amount, I suppose, to me. More through the years, that's meant more to me.
Yeah. And like, how many more nowadays think that way too? You know, like,
well, that's it. Yeah,
there's a lot to be said for someone saying to you, you know, like, well done.
That's what I'm all about, communication.
Yeah.
Like, you have to tell these people that you deserve it. Like, there was basically that night I got the trophy. I remember the little gold strip Jimmy Halpin stuck it onto it, and that was it. That was it. You went home. No one told you that you're a great fella, or that how well you played, or why you got it, or like, these things need to be explained a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, because it's great and well getting player of the year, but why did a player get player of the year? Because usually the person that gets it can't see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're not usually expecting it. Because if you were expecting it, like, then you'd be called a cocky fucker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you're saying, "Oh, why didn't I get player of the year? I deserve player of the year, so I do." So it's the balance, I suppose. Trying not to be too cocky, but trying to be confident at the same time.
Yeah, but as you said, the communication can be it can make such a difference to a person.
Oh yeah, and that's why it is, like, a proper communication. Like, you see it even in text messages. Like, someone could send you a text message in complete sort of innocence, and whatever way you read it, if they have a full stop or explanation mark in the wrong place, you could pick it up completely wrong. And it's the same in sort of any of them sort of events as well. The more you can communicate with the person that this is what I mean and this is why you got the thing, but you're not perfect yet, and you can still do this to improve, but without putting them down at the same time.
Yeah, I get that.
None of us are perfect. We can all improve on different things in life.
For sure. And it's funny when we're talking about that. I'll probably get in trouble for saying this now, but it takes us back to just our dinner dance there recently, you know, before Christmas. And we had a lot of young lads after coming on to the squad this year, you know, they were after winning their first championship, you know.
That's right.
But I just felt the whole presentation personally was just so rushed. You know, like, you put so much into this thing and you sacrifice so much. I think when it comes to a night like that to celebrate it, that I personally thought it would have been nice to hear from some of the young lads, just to talk about what the experience was like for them. And instead they were kind of called up in trees, given their medals, good luck. And I think that it doesn't make the thing enticing. Do you know what I mean? If you can understand, it doesn't make it enticing for, say, another group to come. Well, if I might have liked to have shared my experience this year. Or I might have liked to have been just made a little bit of a fuss of. I think it's
as
so
you said,
important.
all it takes is 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I know people are on about, we don't want speeches or the yoke to go on dragged out all night long. But you want to make the important parts of it. You have to give time to them. Like, as you said, like, you'd love to hear from that player of the year, just what the year meant to him.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. And even, a bit more time to the whole lot of them, like the junior, intermediate, whoever won it. Even the sort of the award winner for the club person of the year.
Yeah.
Like, what was it for them to give the commitment that they gave over the last 2 or 3 years?
Yeah.
To win that thing. So, like, you can give time to these things if they're organised properly. But, it should be more out in the public, I suppose, and let people have more of a say about it.
Yeah, I just thought it was important because it's a big achievement for a young lad to win a local championship, like, and just even, as you said, a couple of minutes there, just even ask them how they felt coming on to the senior squad. Did they enjoy?
Like, some of them young lads might never win another senior medal in their lives.
No, and they're at an age now where they think they're, like we all did at one stage.
Yeah,
we're going to win this, that, and the other, but it doesn't happen.
We're going to win it for the next 5 years.
Yeah,
that was it, sort of thing. Like, it was. So who'll beat us? There's always someone going to beat you, no matter how big or strong or, I suppose, determined that you are.
Yeah,
something's always going to beat you, and that's in sport and in life.
True. Oh, that was my thoughts on it. I just remember that night. I just found I did find it a little bit disappointing, but look, I was said now.
That's it.
I'm not sure if you were tuned in. I had James Connell, senior and junior, on there last week. We had a good old chat, and we were talking about rugby and all the aspects.
I didn't actually hear about it.
Yeah, but we were James senior was just talking about the physicality of rugby, and you've touched on it there now, Victor, as it was a great release.
He was actually, just to interrupt you there, the physicality of rugby, a lot of that was usually any scrapes or bumps that you went home with was usually the fault of James Connolly senior. So because I don't know whether the man was blind or what, but he always just loved to stamp on his own players, not the opposition players. And you got more at training from him than anybody else. So you can go on and say what you want, but James Connolly was probably the most, I don't know whether he was dirtily intentionally or just whether he was just hard, awkward and that. But every training or match, he got a rap off him, so you did. So I just wanted to stick that one in there about old James.
You were going out concerned as a teammate, let alone opposition.
Oh, stop! Yeah, that he'd be the first lad to be looking out for to make sure you're not near him when he's coming into a ruck.
Oh, I can only imagine. It actually makes it funnier now that he was on about it.
And the roars off of him then as well. Oh, stop!
Great character. Oh, great character. Yeah. Well, we were talking about the physicality of it, and he embraced the physicality, and you talked about how rugby there was a great release for you too at a certain time. But I suppose that brings it on then, Victor, like without, I don't want to dwell on the situation too much for you, because I know you've had so many interviews and you've revisited that, and you're at a different chapter and stage in your life. But the reality is that's the other side of the physicality.
That is the reality, yeah. Look, and as you said, I've done lots of interviews, and I suppose I am now who I am because of the accident, but not all because of the accident, because of what we've been talking about and the football and that when I've been growing up. And like, I always had that determination and that sort of outlook on life. I'd always have a positive outlook on life. I was never a man glass half empty, because I just get filled up again. But I was always sort of, I always had a positive. That sort of gave me determination to start off where I started off. I suppose it's like a journey really since the accident. But the physicality of the game has gone up hugely since I played. I don't know whether I'd be able I'd go into the game still there on a Sunday, but the pace is just so much quicker. Like, I probably would have adapted, and you would get fitter and that sort of thing. So, but it's just, I suppose, it's a lot bigger, a lot stronger. Lads are a lot meaner and sort of that sort of thing. My accident, I suppose, came about, and the laws have changed after my accident. Like, I was hooking that day, and it was whatever, 10, 15 minutes left of the game. And there was no crouch, touch and pause back then. that came in the year after, or 2 years after I had the accident. So that probably would have saved me, or I probably, more than likely, I wouldn't have had the accident if that rule had to be in place back then. Back then it was just, you bent down and you went hell for leather, straight at each other, 1, 2, 3, and that was it. And that's what led to lads, like my shoulder, just my head hit off the lad's shoulder because we went in wrong, went in too quick, and we went in crooked, and I just popped my spine, and that was that. So like, it was pure unfortunate, because it was something that I had done like thousands of times before. Like, you might do it 30 times every training session. So
and that match in particular, Victor, you had a lot of scrummage. I remember you said in an interview before, reading an interview of yours, were you in conversation with the referee or something about?
I did, yeah. Like, we had done, like, we must have had at least 25 scrums that game. It was a real wet day, and people kept dropping the ball, and we were going in, and we were scrumming and scrumming. And I remember, like, it was pissing rain or whatever, real mucky pitch. And I remember I was going into that scrum, and I just said, look, not just blow it up, ref. I said, leave it at that. Because I can't remember whether we were drawn or there wasn't too many points in the game. And yeah, it was I think it was 6-3 or something like that. And that was it. We went down and went into that scrum and pop. That was that. Yeah. So it was just pure sort of unlucky. But I remember everything after. So I remember the ambulance coming and I went to Mullingar and up to Maher then, and got my neck sort of stretched because it was a dislocated vertebrae I had, and we're trying to pop it back in with weights and that different things screwed into me temples, but it didn't work anyway, so they had to operate on it in the end. But yeah, it was sort of
very traumatic.
It was a rough time, so it was. Yeah, but like, I remember being in the recovery then and woke up and I had the mask on me, and I felt very claustrophobic with the sort of oxygen mask. So there was a nurse or someone in the room, a male nurse, and I just asked him what the story was, and he said, look, you'll never walk again, you'll never move your arms, you'll probably need a ventilator for the rest of your life. So then about an hour later, I developed pneumonia then, which was great crack. So I had to get tracheostomy then, so that took away my voice for a while, and then I had the tube down the nose getting fed. So yeah, like, so I was in, like, I suppose, danger, you could say, of dying for maybe a day or two or whatever like that, until I sort of started getting back on my feet, and then sort of just had 1 or 2 bad nights, and there was a nice nurse there, got chatting to her, and she said, look, it won't be like this forever, you can just sort of, you'll get better physically, I don't know how much, she says, but enough to live, and isn't it good to be alive? I suppose that just, I started thinking then, because the day I had my accident, I was after being in the rugby club the night before for
anniversary mass, isn't it?
For the anniversary mass. So, like, when you think of them, and Robert and June used to come up to see me, Derek's parents. So, like, it was sort of, I was thinking, look, at least I'm here, at least I'm alive. And then the other one was then a good associate or friend of mine, Shane Brennan, John Joe's son. He had died in the previous May. So I saw the hardship that I'd done to his family. And I said, look, I'm a better life, even though I can't walk, or I might never do fuck all with the rest of my life. At least I'm here. At least I'm sort of able to take part or say something or do something. And it was just gradually from there, I just started getting a little bit stronger, and got out to the rehab then, and just kept busy doing physio and OT work and that sort of thing. And yeah, it was actually the second time in hospital that was far worse, because I got home in the June bank holiday weekend of 2006, and then I was back into September. Just didn't look after myself, didn't do what I was told, got pressure sore, so I had to go back in. So that was the worst time, because I was just lying in the bed from the start of September till the end of January, in over Christmas. Everyone just turning side to side every 4 hours with the nurses. So it was pretty boring. So it was, and pretty hard on the mind. But in that sort of time, I put together this plan, or this sort of thing. Look, the next 10 years, I want to get driving, I want to build a house, I want to get back to work, and I want to go to college or something like that. So yeah, within, I suppose, 9 years, 8.5 years of making that plan, I had them all achieved. So I was happy enough with that, I suppose, and that's where life, that's how I got my life back on track.
It's not in short of unbelievable, Victor, what you've achieved. And just as you were talking there, and the from the initial shock of everything happening, and another thing I read, it was funny. It kind of displays your character when you were being brought away in the ambulance that time. You had said to a friend of yours, "What have you got? What have I got us into now?" you were kind of even
I said
at
that to
that
me.
point.
Yeah, I
And
said that.
then,
Well, I was after asking me captain previously when I was lying on the ground, Barry O'Connor. I asked him had he any cigarettes with him. I said I could do a bag, but he said he wouldn't give one to me. And then when I got into the ambulance, I said to my other friend Seamus, I says, yeah, what? I says, well, myself and himself would have been hanging around a lot together. I said, what have I got us into now? I says, so yeah, it was just one of those sort of sayings. It was sort of, yeah, but look, I heard after that my head was half off and helicopters had to come and get me. And
yeah.
stories do get exaggerated, but it wasn't
Oh,
that bad. I was conscious and I was able to leave in the ambulance and everything. I remember everything. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing because it's part of my journey, I suppose, and stuff
of
like
course.
that.
And you look back at little moments, like as you were saying, there's key things. And when you're talking now, I'm sure you would say, yes, that was your intention. And I'm sure they
Yeah, there
all
is. Yeah,
they
there's
all
key
come
things
from
and there's
very difficult times too. I'm sure, like they're very like you can pinpoint to certain little turning points. And I know the nurse, she played a very important part in that as well. Like when you were,
small little things can make a huge difference.
yeah,
Just somebody just like as I said, someone like the nurse just saying that to me just brought me sort of back down to reality a little bit.
yeah,
And it's sort of, and I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I got into the counselling and that in the end. Now I was always interested in people and just how people worked, and I'd be a people watcher, I suppose, and how people react to different events in their lives and that sort of stuff. But it was different, yeah, different little things. There was different occasions in my life where I had a choice one way or the other.
yeah,
And I suppose they're the times that you think back of and you sort of say, yeah, I'm happy I did that. Lucky enough, I have very few regrets over anything sort of thing. And I'm a sort of person that doesn't really live with regrets, I suppose, because I weigh up the pros and cons of a lot of situations. That's the way my head works now, and always sort of did. What can good can happen out of this, and what bad can happen out of it. And you usually go like the good option. And yes, sometimes some bad things will happen, but they're the consequences that you have to deal with. And now that I suppose I'm living alone, I live at home here and that sort of thing. And that was the whole plan. But that does put you sometimes in a precarious position because something can go wrong or
yeah.
something can catheter could block. Different things can go wrong with my body that I'm not able to sort out. And I need someone there at the time. So I'm lucky to have the family close, but I I I choose to be, I suppose, independent over choosing to live in a fear.
Yeah. I'm sure it has taken. It's taken so much to get to that point too. I'm sure.
Oh, it does, and like every day, it's work
Mm.
every day. Like it's not sort of, I suppose, the thing that you say, oh yeah, I'll do this
Yeah,
and
that's
I'll
it.
do
Yeah,
that, and you get it done. But you have to work. Like I'm not saying every day is hard work, but it's harder work than anybody else's life.
yeah,
And I'm
absolutely.
like, I'm not looking for sympathy, and I'm not looking for over that sort of thing. But if you, I suppose, just give for example, I suppose the last week or two, where
Mm.
you're comfortable in bed with the heat. Like most people would have been uncomfortable in bed trying to get to
Yeah,
sleep and stuff like that. That's grand for most people because they can twist and turn
yeah.
and whatever like that. Once I go to bed, I'm in that position till I wake up the next morning. So like
Mm.
even if I'm hot or sweating or that sort of thing, I can move my arms maybe and pull the sheet down or quilt down, but I can't turn from one side to the other. I can't turn over. I can't get up and open a window. I can't do any of them sort of things. So that's when you feel your, I suppose, disability coming against you.
Yeah,
But then you see, you have to come up with different things. So I have Alexa in the house. So I put her on so I can turn on the fan by voice control. I can open the blinds by voice control. I can turn on the radio by voice control. You can do a lot of different things. Once a lot of it's, and the way I live on my own too, is I take time and look at things and figure out how can I do that with the movement or with the power that I have. And if I can't do it first off, well then I'll come up with some sort of way that I can. And then it's all about figuring things out, trial and error, not giving up, and until you eventually just sort of it either defeats you that you can't physically or mentally do it, or you figure it out and you do and you get used to it and you get better at it every time. So it's like the driving. The driving was a big thing. It took
mm.
me maybe 2 years to get control of the driving. I got a wrong car. The first time was too big and powerful. Then the next one I got, it sort of didn't suit me with the wrong driving sort of system. But then once I got the right car, I sort of did a few lessons in it here, went over to Killoe in Roscommon, it was set up by the IWA, and there was a course on that week that you did 3 driving lessons every day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 in the evening, and that was it. I got the car. James, my brother, left the car over on the Sunday evening, and I drove the car home from Roscommon on the Friday evening, and that was that. I was driving. So it's all a matter about just sort of concentrating and figuring things out. But like, it took me a while, and I nearly gave up on the driving so many times. So I did, but I'm so happy now that I didn't, like, because it gave me just a whole new. I never drove before the accident, so like, I suppose that was a good thing. I wasn't used to gears and different things, and sort of wondering how the whole lot works. I drove a tractor and different things like that, and I knew how to drive, but just never was on the road, never had a license. So this is a whole new experience of getting used to driving with a joystick, basic, that your steering, your brakes, and everything was controlled with the joystick. And yeah, it was very unusual, but it has given me just so much independence that I can go and sort of do. And like, I wouldn't be able to work individually. I have to get someone to bring me in and out of work if I wanted to do what I'm doing now. So it was the final, I suppose, crossed off my list that added everything in together. All the other achievements about getting my degree, going back to college, building a house, that sort of stuff, they were all great and well, but they were all nearly individual until I got the drive, and then that married them all together. So
it's amazing. It really is. Yeah, it's incredible, Victor. When you talk about like the core people around you as well, and you talk about the small little things that we all take for granted. Like, I can't even begin to imagine your situation, but just reflecting on what you're saying and the small little things we all take for granted.
It's an interesting one to do. Like, it's a good sort of the one lying in bed. Like, next time that you're lying in bed and you want to twist it, or just stop yourself. And every time you want to do it, just stop. See how long you can stop yourself from doing it. It's just an interesting experiment how to get some people to sort of do. It gives you an insight into my life, I suppose, for an hour or a few minutes on you. So just the restriction that can have on you.
And it's one of so many things as well.
Yeah, that's just a small sort of little thing, but you overcome a lot of sort of stuff, like the stuff that I shouldn't be able to do, I am able to do because I figured out a way of doing it.
Yeah.
But like, that's just me, and that's just the independence, I suppose, coming out and being. Not that I don't want to rely on everybody, because I've no sort of qualms or hold-ups in asking anybody for help. Like, I never had from day one after the accident. Like I said, that was one of the first things I came and said, I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. But as you said, I had a great core of friends around me. Yeah. Great core of sort of, like, they're just friends from just in the parish.
Yeah.
And then just a good core of rugby boys, and like, they did huge fundraising for me, which has given me a huge, like, I wouldn't be able to do some of the things as well. Like the IRFU, the Charitable Trust, it's a trust set up by the rugby that supports all the injured players. I think there's 37 of us altogether since 1976, I think it was set up. So like, they paid for my college course. They paid for stuff like that. They gave a donation towards the car. Like, I'm blessed in a way that I had me accident through rugby. So like, from what I've seen in Dunleary in different places, if you're a rugby player or if you're a jockey, you're lucky because they look after you. Whereas most other people, unless you have insurance, it's going to be in a very expensive road for you. And again, like, look at my local parish there as well. Like, the house that I got built, like, it's a fabulous house, but it never would have been up to the standard or being able to afford it without the way it was organised by Gary Fenlon and a few of the lads here around Killoe, and Mike McGann that did the fundraising. Like, they got lads like Frank Kieran, like, he got Tegel to donate all the slates for the house, like probably over 10,000 worth of stuff. Like, it was sort of, Micheál Dunn was doing the windows at the time. I got 20,000 off the windows at the time. Like, I wouldn't have been able to build the house to the spec I was able to build it without that. And then it just happened that I was on the television, so every time you went to look for something else, someone would say, "Sure, we put a sign on the window and you'd be on the telly." So I think we got a few pound off for that as well, which was grand. But yeah, like, I'm blessed in a way. Like, I'm not a religious person in a lot of sort of ways. If you sort of pushed me on, I'd probably be spiritual. I'd be more Taoism or Buddhism or that sort of thing. I just like to live my life the best way that I can and sort of treat people as well as I can, and hope to be treated well myself. Like I wouldn't put down any religion, I wouldn't put down anything like that. Everybody to their own if you get something out of it. But I just feel that I was sort of karma. If you're good to people, life will come back and be good to you.
Yeah, that's an amazing attitude, Victor. Yeah.
So,
thanks very much for being just for being so open, Victor, and sharing so much there. The community thing is very special too, isn't it? Like,
it is, yeah. Community is huge to me, so like.
And you're going back to what we talked about earlier, the core group of friends. Like, you know, you have definitely experienced so much, you know, so much help and so people rowing behind you, but also that disappears very quickly too. And I'm sure there are times where you're left alone, and that's I suppose where you see the core that's there beside you all the time, and
that's like when I went into hospital that time, like there was a couple of lads that you'd think were friends, but I haven't spoke to since.
Yeah.
So like, and then other lads that you wouldn't expect to be as good of friends really stood up to the mark, like, and sort of were really there for me, like, and that sort of thing. Whereas I wouldn't have considered them as close until then, sort of thing. Like, so it's funny the way some people react. Like, some people just couldn't handle seeing me in the wheelchair or that sort of thing at all. Whereas other people, I suppose, and people, I got to know people actually from just being in the hospital and people coming up to see me, that I'd be close enough to now, like, too. So it does, it shows me other people's traits, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying times tell a lot.
Oh yeah, like, until you're pushed, like, you just don't know who you are really sometimes either, or what you can handle. And like, and that's what a lot of people would say to me, I don't think I'd be able to handle what happened to you. And 15 years ago, I would have said the exact same thing as them. I don't think I'd be able to handle that. But when you're put in the position, you have to. And you either have to go one way or the other. Like, you have to go positive, or, well, you don't have to do anything in life. That's one of my sort of things that I do say to all my clients is, there's nothing you have to do in life apart from die. But what you try and do is try and put yourself in the most positive position, and not a negative position that everything in the world is bad and everybody's out to get you and that sort of thing. It's trying to say, look, I've got this, what can I do with it? Or I've got this much, and I think Dún Laoghaire or the rehab did that to me as well, because I felt a little bit sorry for myself maybe going into the hospital, and sort of I didn't know what to expect, because you're told in the matter that you're going out to Dún Laoghaire, out to the rehab, and you can perform miracles out there. So in your head, you're half thinking, just maybe they can get me legs or arms going again. And you're thinking, maybe you wouldn't know now, maybe I'll be able to do something. And then you get out there, and you're out there for a little while, and sort of you realise then it starts coming to you, look, I'm only able to do so much. And again, that's where the sport comes back in on it, because I loved going to physio. I'd pray, I'd do a double session of physio if I could every day, whereas most people didn't want to go down at all, because a lot of them be depressed, didn't want to get out of bed, or maybe it was hard work, didn't like it. Whereas I still do an hour of physio every day. So I do on a bike, legs and that sort of thing, automatic, and do my arms, do free weights, do sort of stretches out of the ceiling. So I still enjoy doing my physio and still do that. And you need to do that to keep the body going. Whereas, like, and that all comes from being sporty and enjoying doing training and stuff like that. But 99% of people that have accidents aren't that sort of way. So
no, that's the strength of your mindset too. That's your character. Like, you know, it goes to show how other people just go the opposite way.
But when you see people up in Dún Laoghaire and you're sort of feeling a little bit sorry for yourself because you can't walk or move your arms, I can't move my hands, I can move my arms, so you'll have to be stronger than right. When you see someone that can't move at all, and you're there thinking, geez, they can't even lift that, no, they can't do that. And there you start to appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
Even though it might be very little, but you appreciate that you're not on a ventilator. You appreciate that you can pick something up with your hands or that sort of thing, or you can turn in the chair, or you can actually even use a power chair. Whereas a lot of people might have to use it with chin control and that sort of thing, or get someone to feed them. So like I can feed myself, or I couldn't do that for the first maybe year. But that's all about physio again and building up strength and making sure that you're strong. And I've actually felt myself now since this lockdown, because I haven't really done much physio, I can find myself getting weaker. And I need to get back at it pretty shortly to try and keep up the sort of, I suppose, muscle mass that I have built up, because it deteriorates very quickly if you do stop.
Yeah, it's so important.
It's all about sort of appreciation what you have, and sort of not feeling sorry for yourself and just getting on with life. And I suppose one of my greatest achievements that, again, I'm only starting to appreciate in the last maybe year or two, was the Person of the Year award that I won back in 2016.
Yeah.
I felt I didn't deserve that at the time. I thought there was a couple of other good people up that night that could have won it far easier. Was
that old mentality creeping in again, or?
Yeah. Just, well, it was the sort of old mentality, and it was the sort of thing like, I'm just getting on with life. Why does everybody think that I'm a great fella? Sort of thing, or why do they sort of say, oh, just it's neat, sort of, and that, sometimes that gets on me nerves. Isn't he a great fella? Whereas, like, in my own head, like, I'm just doing what anybody in my position would do. But then sometimes I look back and say, well, maybe they wouldn't. Like, they wouldn't have college for 4 years. They wouldn't sort of drive. They wouldn't have gone on and built a house to be happy enough to live at home and get looked after. So sometimes the mindset can change. I can think sometimes, you've worked hard and you deserve what you have, and keep going at it, and like, life is pretty good. And other times I'm sort of, I can feel a bit of a fraud sometimes. And it's sort of like, it's something that I'm working on in my own personal sort of headspace as well. Like, and that's sort of like, that's telling you as well, that not every counsellor is perfect. We all got sort of problems that we have to work on. It's not that we've got life figured out. Like, I always struggle with confidence, and sometimes I still do, but I'm a lot better. I sort of put in place coping mechanisms to sort of stop me from getting them automatic negative thoughts coming in, and sort of saying, no, look, don't be putting yourself down. Like, just, life is hard, life is whatever, like this. Give yourself a bit of sort of praise every now and again. But Irish people don't do well under praise. We have to sort of learn how to take praise better. If you told an American that they're a great person, they'd say, oh yeah, I know I am. But if you told an Irish person you're a great fellow, hey, what are you doing? Are you taking the piss out of me now, or you're trying to rise me, or what are you up to? So, like, it's Irish mentality, and male mentality as well. Because if you tell a woman that they look beautiful, they'll say, oh, thanks very much. Whereas you tell a fellow, judge, you're looking good. You start looking at himself and see his rap wrong.
What's wrong with that
because
fella?
you think, is me fly down? What's he trying to say now? He's taking the piss out of me. So we have to try and control our mentality and the way we think about ourselves, and sort of the way we put ourselves. So
that's a daily practice.
Sometimes the mind does lapse back into the self-doubt and that sort of thing.
Well, I hope you realise now that that's all there were, thoughts.
Yeah, well, look, sometimes you do and sometimes you don't, but it's
you said
at the same time. Then I suppose the Person of the Year was a proud achievement, but I suppose one of the best things I've done is set up Longford Counselling, sort of taking that over, because that's where I suppose you see what you've done actually in life, basically, or you can see it there and straight in front of you. Because as I said before, you see clients coming in, not even my own clients, just coming in. We have, I think, 6 counsellors in there at the moment. Before we closed down, we were seeing roughly about 100 clients a week. Whereas before that, like, there was no place in Longford to go to get affordable counselling, and you still have to wait 6 months on the HSE waiting list to see a counsellor. You get 6 sessions and then you're kicked out. Whereas most of our people, you need a lot more than 6 sessions. Like, I have some clients there have 70 and 80 sessions done with over the last 2 or 3 years, and they're still there, and there's 1 or 2 of them that haven't paid a penny towards any of the counselling. And that's like, we're not there for the money. We're there to provide a service to take the stigma out of mental health, get people talking, and just hopefully save a few lives. Because we've had several people, like, since the Christmas up until the middle of March, we had 3, I suppose, people, as we call, walk-ins, that were just on the verge of committing suicide. That we were their final hope. So we got them in and we looked after them and we sorted them out and got them back. And lucky enough, they're all still alive and they're doing a lot better. But that's hopefully maybe 1 or 2 or 3 lives that we've saved. And that's a knock-on effect to all their families and stuff like that. So the service that we provide is one thing that I know that is a good thing I've done in my life, and no one can take that away from me. I suppose that's one sort of, and I don't know what it is about it, but it just sort of it sticks with me that I've done something good with my life, at least one thing anyway.
Well, I think that's an understatement, Victor, personally, because I think it's an unbelievable service you're providing and involved in, considering what you have gone through and just hearing everything you've shared there so far, like the journey you've come on to be in a position.
That's coming. Yeah, I think that's coming from Sean, from talking myself.
Yeah.
As you said at the start of the interview, I've been very open about my accident. I'm very open about everything that's happened since, like different things like that. And being that open has helped me get through it, because I'm just talking about it and letting other people, maybe now I don't in every so far, but giving them a glimpse of life and that sort of thing, and showing that you can get knocked back and you can get kicked down, but it doesn't mean you have to stop. You can keep going, or you'll come across hard times in the meantime, but that's when you ask for help and you sort of look for help off other people and sort of keep going. And I don't run Longford Counselling Service on my own. Like, I have one or two other people there that sort of give me a hand, but yes, mainly it's mine. But if you're a dictator, nothing will get done too. You have to ask other people, well, what do you think of this idea? Or what do you think of that idea? And a lot of times I've been wrong with ideas that I have, but I've been pointed out. And
it's a key part of leadership, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all about having good people in place with you on the management team that can tell you, and that you're not afraid to take criticism either, or not afraid to sort of say, oh yeah, well, that will work better that other way. I was wrong. So sometimes you do have to sort of step back and say, I'm not as clever as I thought I was, or I sort of haven't got as much experience in this as I thought I had. So
it's the only way to move forward, isn't it? It's like a self-evaluation, and it's being open to
it's exactly like you're doing with this, Sean. So it is. You have to sort of push yourself a little bit every so often.
Yeah.
It mightn't be comfortable, you mightn't feel comfortable at it, but at the end of the day, when you look back on it, I suppose a good example of that in my life is last year I went for the local elections. I thought I'd do okay. I sort of hemmed and hawed about for a long time. I was sort of not pushed into it, but persuaded into it. I didn't really want to do it yet. I was going to wait maybe for another 2 elections, maybe 8 years' time when I had a bit more experience. But I went for it anyway. I thought I'd get on pretty well, but I didn't. I ended up bottom of the polls, and it was my own local parish that let me down. That sort of none of them voted for me. Now I can see the reasons why. I suppose in hindsight, lack of experience, another good candidate there, Micheál Carricky. So there was a lot of different things that sort of ended up where I was. But that's not to say I wasn't hugely disappointed at the same time. But I just gathered it, looked at it. I said, that's a huge life experience, huge life learning. I've learned a lot from that experience. I loved going around meeting the people on the campaign trail. But it wasn't for me. It didn't work out in that stack, with life. And that's given me, I suppose, it worked out in a certain way that I'd have a lot more time now to spend with Longford Counselling. And I got twice as busy after I sort of lost that election that I probably wouldn't have time to be doing the counselling or the county councillor anyway. So life can just work out in funny ways for you.
Yeah, it really can.
If you dip your toe in things, and just everything is an experience in life, and I suppose it's the excitement. I do see people that are nervous and that sort of thing, but nervous is the exact same feeling as excitement. Like, so if you're looking at a football game, we'll say, and that sort of thing, and you'll start to feel, if it's going down to the last minute, goosebumps will start to go up, the heart rate will start to go up, you'll start to nearly contract a little bit, so you will. But excitement is the exact same thing. If you're going out to the pop fizz years ago, you'd nearly start sweating, thinking about, what am I going to do? And start getting all nervous. So nervousness and sort of excitement, that they're all sort of anxiousness. They're all built up in one. So like when you're doing exams and you're getting nervous, rather than sort of saying, oh, jeez, I'm shocking nervous, just say, I'm fierce excited. I'm going to do very well now in this exam. And change the emotion and the train of thought from nervousness into excitement. And it's all about mind control in certain sort of ways.
Yeah. Because there is
jump in and see how it goes.
Yeah, because there is a stigma there as well, when it comes to opening up, that if you agree, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. There seems to be the stigma that you have to be at rock bottom before you open up and before you make yourself available to these services, whereas
that's completely the wrong
it's the wrong,
train of thought.
it's as early as
because if
possible.
you get to rock bottom, you've so far to come back up again.
Yeah, like, and there is. Do you think that there is that stigma there?
Definitely, definitely. That there is and a lot
you
of
have
things
to
is,
be in dire
like,
straits.
there's nothing really wrong with me. They'll only laugh at me if I go in and tell them this, because people come in, and I always say to them as well that it might be a small problem in my mind, and it might be a small problem in your mind, but for the person that's having this problem, it's a huge problem for them.
Yeah.
And what I'm suffering might be only small to them, but it's huge to me. So we're all individual, and we all have little different bits of problems and different things, as we say, trigger us off to react in certain sort of ways. But we shouldn't let ourselves get to rock bottom.
No.
And even if we do go to counselling and sort of maybe sort out what is going wrong with that specific time, there's no harm in sort of just keeping maintenance. Like, keeping maintenance of the mind is the same as keeping maintenance of the body.
Yeah.
Like, we'll always go out and do a few stretches or a bit of a run trying to keep ourselves fit. But that's what counselling is. Counselling is basically talking to the other person to keep your mind fit and to keep all the pressures off your mind. Because when you've no pressures on, you achieve far more in life.
Yeah.
So you do. So definitely you don't need to be rock bottom when you go to counselling, because you have more stuff to work on. And if you can just sort of maintain a decent mental health, well, then that's huge.
And develop strategies and coping strategies, and
that's it. Everybody has anxiety and depression. We all have it in some sort of form. It's just how we deal with it is the big thing. And so if we can have them coping mechanisms and strategies in place, and then we'll recognize when it's coming on, rather than sort of it hitting us all of a sudden, a big anxiety spurt, we can sort of work our way out of it, or sort of just even cope with it when it's happening and figure it out later on, and that sort of thing. So it's all about sort of, and building up, I suppose, resilience to it then as well.
Yeah.
The more it happened to us and the more we, I suppose, survive, isn't a great word, but the more we get over it, the better we'll be able to, the more resilient we become to it.
And the key is changing our attitude and being open. It's that everything starts with yourself at first.
Everything starts with yourself and talking, and not holding things up, not thinking people will laugh at me when I tell them this. And bullying is another big one that sort of we come across as well. We have to, our generation will have to change, because we just have to teach kids and stuff like that. Like, it's big at the moment with the racism and stuff like that going on.
Crazy.
Like, we have to talk about these things. Get the kids' thoughts and see where they're coming from. Tell them where we're coming from, because our generation will be the first that would be less, I'm not saying that we're not racist, but less racist than the previous couple of generations. Because our generation has saw the Polish come in, they saw the colour people coming in from Africa and places like that. Whereas our parents' generation, like, they might have saw one coloured person in their life in Longford.
Yeah.
So, like, whereas commonplace to us now. So we have to teach our kids that there's nothing wrong with it, there's nothing different than it. This is just the norm.
Because if you don't talk and open up about it and learn about it, you're just carrying that on to the next generation then,
and that weight just gets heavier and heavier. So it does.
Yeah.
And it's like it's there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's just we have to open our minds, and that's what I said to you maybe at the start. Let's go back to the start as well about the travel. If you travel a little bit more and see different, I suppose, ways of life, well, then you're open. Your mind is open more. So it is. It's
invaluable. I think, and again, it's until you experience it and you go through it, then you're able to share that. Then, as well. Like, you know what?
It's the same with me going through the trauma of having the accident. Like, so if anybody comes in to me and after maybe being in a car crash or that sort of thing, or I can be empathetic with them. I can be related to where they're going through and their trauma. So I can. So that's one of the other reasons I got into the counselling as well. That a lot of people, well, one, I suppose I wanted to stop suicide as much, I suppose, as possible. Like, I've had some in my family, a first cousin, an uncle, different things like that. So I think nearly every family in Ireland has been affected by suicide in some way or another. So it has. But we we can't just, not everybody can go to Athlone to be at house to get treatment. And after the thing with Console, they're back a couple of years ago where the manager sort of ripped it off. Well, all the funding was cut then to the small charities, so PH are the only place to get funding. So it's very hard for small places like us to keep going, especially when we're running on a low cost sort of basis. It's only like we only charge €15 for an assessment, where private it'd be €50. And then if you had a full session, maximum what we charge is 25 or whatever you can afford. Some people don't even pay, or they might throw us a fiver every week or two. Yeah. Whereas if you went private, that's 60 to 80 at least. That's in Longford. If you're going to Dublin, it's 100. Yeah. So, and Pieta House can't take everybody on too. So, like, even if you went over and you felt suicidal, there's criteria that you have to meet and a form you have to fill out. If you don't meet that criteria, they won't take you. So, like, where do you go then? You feel rejected, more so rejected. So that was one of the reasons, is trying to stop the suicide and give people to go and just take the stigma out of the whole counselling thing and just provide. Like, there was a place there before that I was managing called Good to Talk, but they were a Westmeath crowd. They're still in Mullingar. But I suppose, being sort of who I am, I just wanted a local person to be running a local charity like this. Shouldn't be someone Longford shouldn't need someone come in from outside the county and provide a service for the Longford people that someone in Longford can provide themselves.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, completely agree.
The more we can do, we call ourselves.
Yeah, it's a lack of awareness and education too. A lot of people just don't understand.
That's exactly. You're just after saying that they're exactly, Sean. It's a lack of awareness and education.
Yeah.
But training as well. Like, there's courses there like the Safe Talk and assist courses. They're suicide prevention or that sort of. They're very well worth going to, but they're not advertised enough. You see, everybody knows about sort of. Or you can put up as much posters as you want.
Yeah.
But unless the people understand what they're reading on the poster, well, then you're well off not having the poster up at all.
Yeah.
So like, it's like putting up the COVID posters, but not putting up what you're meant to do, that you're meant to cough into your arm and you're meant to do this and you're meant to do that. It's just saying, oh, there's COVID around. But you have to educate the people of why they're doing this. So why are we talking? Because talking is good and stuff like that, and that it helps people get stuff out and to make each other feel so much better. And when you see that in the counselling room, like, it's a huge, it's literally like a buzz.
Yeah,
really.
I know it's like describe the feeling, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see them, and after the half hour or an hour that they're in there with you, and they're walking out, you can just see, that's great to get that off my shoulders, to finally tell something. Because most people think that they're going to be judged, and that's the other big thing in the counselling room. There's no judgment at all. We don't judge, no matter who you are, what you are, or whatever like that. There's no judgment. When people come in and feel that they're relaxed and that they can trust me and that they're not going to be judged, well, then it can change their whole lives. It could take 2 sessions. I saw people coming in and just make life-changing alterations after two sessions. They just needed a bit of verification. And then I have other lads there that are still working after 50 sessions. But they're in a lot better. It's nearly maintenance now. Apart from coming twice a week, they're coming once a month. So
again, that's the understanding, that thing of, as you were saying, some people they'll benefit from it in the short term. Other people, it takes a different period of time.
Yeah.
But it's having that awareness that you're not going in thinking, right, I'm going to be fixed here straight away, or this.
That's it. Yeah. Or going in thinking that the counsellor is going to fix me.
Yeah.
You have to fix yourself.
Yeah.
That's the thing about counselling that a lot of people get wrong. We're not going to come in and fix you, or you're not going to come in and we're going to sort of fix you up straight away. You have to do the work. You have to delve into them deep places or deal with that, because you're only with us for an hour. You're with yourself for the rest of the week.
And you have to be open to it. You have to have that
you have
mentality.
to think that's going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to believe that's going to work.
Because I see it.
You will get alcoholics and different things coming in, and it's sort of, they're hoping that it'll work. But they're not funny. It's sort of committed.
I know. I see it even in relation to sport. I remember over the years, like in the last couple of years, I have bought so much into sports psychology myself personally. But I remember even involving county teams years ago where we would have brought in sports psychology and sports psychologists, and they would have been nearly made a laugh of, because there was a lack of education. The delivery lads didn't fully buy into it, but
They're buying into it now, though.
It's such a massive part of sport now. Yeah, I was reading at the Times
like
there
you
the
see,
weekend.
you see your one. I can't think of her name now. She was with the Dublin team there last year. I think she was with the Munster team before that, or the Leinster team. She's well renowned now, sports psychologist.
She's not.
Anything that she's been with,
she's not Niamh Fitzpatrick, no.
That's her, I think.
Yeah, because I read about her in the Times at the weekend, because I think Derry footballers won in Ireland in '93. They were the first team to win in Ireland with a sports psychologist on board. And then Liam Griffin in '96. I think he might have had her involved in '96 for the Wexford Hurlers.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he actually brought her in that time, you know. And
that's right. Yeah, he brought her in for the hurling. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it's such a part now of sport, just the psychology sort of part of it.
Because
it
me and you have chatted already about earlier on about the mindset. You know, like your mindset back in your playing days was identical to mine. I don't deserve this. I shouldn't really be here. There's better. Like
better players.
Yeah, and that's, you know, like
I'm only on it because of this, or because the manager likes me, or that sort of thing. Like, so it is. There is that self-doubt, but I think sometimes you need that little bit of self-doubt to drive yourself.
Motivation-wise too,
yeah. Because if you're not going to do it, you shouldn't be waiting for anybody else to.
No.
You have to sort of do it yourself and put yourself out there. Yeah, if you get knocked back, if you're not good enough. Yeah, I've got lots of them in my time. I got the Leinster knocked back. I got several different times that I thought I'd make the intermediate team in Killoe and didn't make it. And given out to what that fella only made it because of this and that, the other, and sort of.
That still goes on.
That still goes on. Like, and I remember, like, I'd say I was one of the last persons that used to. Like, I was never that overfit, but I remember we used to be able to smoke in the dressing rooms. Like, that was like yourself and Gerard Kieran and maybe one or two others, and John Hughes be in a corner having a fag and putting on the socks at the same time. Like, so. Like, I suppose that's how serious I used to take it at some stages.
But that was the times. I remember as a young lad in Killoe dressing rooms witnessing that.
You wouldn't see yourself with smoking either. Never mind Steve.
But you know, that was that time.
But at the same time, you get yourself revved up for the game, because the manager we had at the time now wasn't too inspiring. So you sort of have to get yourself revved up, and it used to be usually left to me or one of the older lads, Jimmy or something like that. All you could smell off him was fucking Putchie.
Exactly, Putchie in deep heat, or Rajax, whatever.
Putchie, so you used to sit fairly close to him. So
the legs shining.
You had Putchie before you went out, so you would.
There's a lad who walk in and he says, "There's a great smell of fitness in here."
Yeah, that's it. A great smell of fitness, right? So, and Jimmy would be lathering it on, so he would shine and going out the legs a bit. But yeah, no, it's all. Look, I think 80% in your own is down to mental. And the rest of it's down to physical. Maybe 70-30. But if you believe that you're good enough and you believe that you can play, well, then you're going to be fit enough. You mightn't have the skills, but you're going to sort of put the effort in. And I think effort and that sort of thing is worth more than being a classy, very skillful footballer and just not caring really about being on the team.
I couldn't agree with you more, Victor. Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. You're on the spots. The town is humming. You're coming out of Valentine's. Do you go right to Blazers or left to blue?
Oh, I was always a Blazers man, but I worked in blue. I did all. I painted the whole nightclub in blue, and I was Blazers. No, I'd say I always preferred the Blazers. Blazers on a Sunday night.
Yeah, that's a good one, wasn't it? I wasn't aware actually done the painting in blue.
Yeah, we did. I painted the whole ceiling inside in that place and painted all the bedrooms and everything. So
actually,
spent a lot of time in there, and I wasn't all drinking. But I knew every little hidey hole in the corners and that sort of thing.
Yeah, you got to see the place in broad daylight. Not too many seen it in broad daylight.
No, not too many.
Your second one. What has the lockdown taught you, or what have you learned anything different during this period?
I suppose, what was it talking? You can occupy your time by doing fuck all. I do find myself going around and just tipping at different things, maybe watering the flowers, doing a bit of a jigsaw. The next thing the evening is, I do avoid the television until the 6 o'clock news usually. Okay. And then I'd sort of sit down there. And same you can occupy your mind and do things with your mind. Because I still smoke, but I can still occupy myself not to have a fag until the 6 o'clock news is over.
Okay.
So then I'll smoke maybe for the rest of the evening or that sort of thing. So, but during the day, yeah, just by doing small stuff, you can keep yourself ticking over. I suppose that's what I learned from, as I said, it's like at the start of the interview, it's like going back 10 years from when I was studying, going to go back to college, because I used to spend a lot of time here in front of the computer, sort of just doing up me assignments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not really going anywhere because I wasn't driving at the time either. Whereas now I sort of have the more freedom and stuff like that, but I can still just occupy my mind to avoid doing other things. So it's like being an alcoholic and avoiding drink. I do avoid sort of trying to watch too much, keep yourself as active as possible.
Yeah.
And I can do that without too much hassle. So I suppose that's what I've learned about the lockdown, that you can waste time by doing feck all, but the day goes by quick enough.
I think we as people, sometimes we get it hard to do nothing.
Oh, we do, yeah. We find it very hard to switch off.
Yeah.
We feel guilty if we're switched off.
We're running and racing, we're relying on...
Yeah, and I had that feeling for a long time after the accident, and still do get every so often. That when I look out and I see my brother across in the garage and he's still working maybe 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening after working all week, and the father's at the same, he's not home till 9 o'clock at night time. And I said, jeez, like he's whatever age and he's still working, and I'm here sitting doing nothing for the last 4 or 5 hours. But then I do have to put in context, my work is mental now, it's not physical. Like from coming from working 15, 16 hours a day physical painting to working 15 hours a week, sort of seeing clients. It's a big come down physically, but it's a big step up mentally, because you have to try and not bring them clients' problems home, and you have to sort of be able to deal with that and sort of do study and do more reading and that sort of thing. I mightn't be able to hop up and down the step ladder anymore, but I'm able to communicate with people a lot better.
Yeah, like it's, you're taking on, like you're saying, you have your battles every day, and you're taking on someone else's as well. You have to be aware to look after yourself.
I have to have my own battle sorted out before I go in to war with anybody else.
And you have to look after yourself too, and that's,
and that's the big thing about it, self-care. I have to keep an eye on that self-care, because if I'm not looking after me, as you said, I'm no good to look after anybody else.
Yeah, that's an essential part of it.
Yeah. So I suppose just one last thing, if anybody else, I suppose the service we provide in there, like we've been closed the last 2.5 months, so we survive on money coming in the door. So the lads from old school, new school, they had a sort of a thing with cars there in Mel's last year. They can't run it this year because of the COVID thing, but they're auctioning off 2 cars, BMW and a Lexus, and the proceeds are coming to us. So if you go onto the Facebook page of the old school, new school, or OSNS, I think it is, .ie, there's tickets there. They're €20 for a ticket. You can win a BMW. Great. I can't remember what it is, but it's one of the fancy ones anyway. Just if anybody's listening that would like to support us, so that sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm glad you got that in now. Yeah, thank God. Fantastic, Victor. Come here. Thanks very much. I was very conscious, because I know you're not a fan of the word inspire, and I don't think I used it throughout our chat.
No, you didn't. Fair. And I'm getting a little bit more used. I sort of have to work on that. So as I said, it does take a while for me to think that I'm doing anything good, but I'm getting better with the word inspire. So I am. So as I do say at me talks, I'm not out to inspire anybody, but if I do, all well and good.
Well, to say you're, as I said before, to say you're an inspiration is an understatement. Like, I just think you're terrific in so many ways. And I know personally, I'm aware that out of all these chats I'll do and the different people I'll be talking to, I will not talk to anybody like you. It's your mindset, your approach to things.
I'm an individual, all right.
Yeah, but no, but you mightn't like the word, Victor, but you are, and maybe it's something you need to get used to, because it's going to be associated with you forever. And like, you are an inspiration, and what you're doing for people is just simply incredible. Like, I am actually lost for words, because
It's not like it.
The story, like the story itself, and you know, your ability to look at. I don't know if you're familiar with a character called Henry Fraser.
I heard of him before.
Yeah, I read his book before. Yeah, and just when you were talking about things there, the name of his first book I actually read was "The Big Little Things," and that's exactly what you hit on back at time. Your ability to see the little things that you were able to achieve and able to do in comparing others.
Small steps.
Yeah, and that itself is challenging. I can only imagine, and to be able to do it, to achieve everything you have achieved, and to be in a position where you're given so much to people. Like, and I cannot be underestimate the service you're providing. Like, you know, and again, I just think it's a lack of awareness, a lack of education, like we spoke about earlier. But it's so.
And that's why I love going around to the schools, giving talks to the schools about just my life story and mental health and stuff like that, because that's where we need to be hitting them. We need to be getting them at first, second, third year to get this mental sort of thing imposed in them and get this sort of thing that they can talk about stuff and open up and stuff like that. So I can see that, like, and I've had so many good feedbacks from the talks I give in the school. I really enjoy doing them, and something that I hope to get into more in the future, sort of thing. So, look, thanks for having me on, Sean.
Victor, from the bottom of my heart, thanks so much. Thank you.
No problem at all. We'll talk to you later, so.
All the best.
Good luck.